Here Comes Honey Boo Boo Child, which has been getting bigger ratings than the RNC and the TNC. I want to invite into the show Karen Kataline. She has written a book called Fat Lash. Karen, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Branden. I think I have a bone to pick with you.
Why?
Because when I spoke to you this morning about maybe talking to you this afternoon, I went and watched that stuff on YouTube.
You went and watched Here Comes Honey Boo Boo Child.
Yeah. I mean, I'm well aware, and because of my background in history and what have you, which is what I'm here to talk about, I generally try to avoid that. But
Didn't you used to be in child pageants?
At least look at what I'm going to be talking about.
When you were when you were younger, you were in child pageants, weren't you?
My mother put me on the stage when I was 3 years old. Ooh. In little sequin costumes, and not surprisingly, there's a picture of her in a sequin costume circa 1931 when she was about that age. So this is the kind of thing that does get passed down from generation to generation. But yes, I was in child beauty pageants when I was 7, 8, and 9. I had a mother who was a stage mother on steroids, and my book is about that. But what I see happening today is even more disturbing. And what I really hope people will understand is that, number one, if you have icky feelings about it, you should trust your instincts because it is indeed icky.
And don't get wrapped up in it for 2 hours.
Well, it's like a bad car wreck.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see it and you want to understand the phenomena and why it is what it is. But here's the problem that the voices that don't ever get heard from. And this is why I wrote the book. Because it took me 20 or 30 years to understand how this affected me. Now, I'm not one of those people to blame, and ooh, poor me. But I'm a clinician. I went to Columbia School of Social Work. And so I know whereof I speak. And people, understandably, understand the feeling that it makes them feel like. But to truly understand how a kid feels, you have to maybe read a book like mine.
And this is Karen Kataline. The book is called Fat Lash. So I want to ask you on a personal level, you were involved in these child pageants. You said your mom was a stage mom on steroids.
Yep.
Did this affect you for the rest of your life? I mean, because we watch this stuff, Toddlers in Tears, and I'm pretty convinced this Honey Boo Boo Child will die of a cocaine overdose by the time she's 17. I think this is going to have long-lasting effects on her.
Either that
did it affect you?
You can't predict into the future, but you're not going to hear that story for 20 or 30 years. And part of what you might hear, and what I'm going to speak, again, only from my own perspective, but again, I think it's a syndrome that's endemic to the culture, is that what happens is you're sexualizing children, thrusting them into sexuality before they are emotionally and developmentally prepared. And when they hit adolescence, they sometimes avoid that whole developmental stage completely. That's what I did.
So so tell me. So what happened? What happened to you when you got into your teen years and young adult? What happened to you?
Well, the reason that the book is called Fat Lash: Food Police and the Fear of Thin, because in my case, because my mother put me on very strict diets, and of course, you see, there's a weight issue in that family, the Honey Boo Boo family as well. Mm-hmm. Is that when I was 16, I weighed 285 pounds. So, you see, I put an end to the beauty pageants right then and there.
How much do you weigh now?
I'm a little...
Karen, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Karen.
I knew people want to ask that. I was never that size again, but I'm certainly not skinny either. I'm a little heavier than I'm average by today's standards.
Okay, so besides...
But it's been a struggle.
Besides the fat lash thing, did it have... Do you think it had, like, other emotional effects on you?
Without a doubt.
Really?
Part of the subject is that people don't talk about is obesity as protection. Mm-hmm. It works so well. And if you're going to make it unsafe, and if you're going to expose children to things that are beyond their ability to understand, what you run the high risk of, and this is what's the irony of it, we're freaking out and screaming about the child obesity epidemic, and yet we thrust children into sexuality to give them a reason to have to get fat in order to protect themselves. Sometimes children are smarter than the culture.
So I got about 30 seconds here. So how would you compare this, for example, because I think a lot of it, what about like when we ban food, like in New York City, they're banning
you're going
sodas.
to have me on again because I have a lot of opinions about that.
I was going to say, doesn't that have the opposite effect? I mean, if you tell somebody in New York City you can't have a soda larger than 16 ounces,
then they'll get 6 sodas of 16 ounces, which is why the book is called Fat Lash.
Fat Lash, Karen, Kataline. We'll have you on again. We'll talk some more sometime about the book Fat Lash. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you sharing your personal story, by the way. Interesting point of view. Here's a young lady who was, she was propped up on the stage. She did these things. She did these child pageants. One thing I forgot to ask, I wanted to ask if she was like resentful, even as an adult. Like if she's still resentful against her mom. I mean, I wonder how that would be. And I'm guessing there comes a point when you get over it. But, if that affects the rest of your adult life, you think, man, I can't believe my mom did that to me. Makes me angry and resentful. Appreciate her being on. Coming up, Jeff Knox will have a quick shot of sports. Tom